Hello and welcome back to the Flower Barn Homestead. I'm Lily and today I'm going to be taking you through another week in the life at our micro bakery, the Flower Barn. The Flower Barn is our bakery. I own it with my sister Ellen and my dad Todd, and each week we are open on Fridays and Saturdays 8 to 11. We also each week teach a class on baking or cooking, and then we also run a blog and obviously a YouTube channel. If you're interested in seeing what it looks like to own your own micro bakery and to just be baking all the time, then you're in the right place, and I hope you enjoy this video. As I'm sure you can imagine, for small businesses, Christmas comes a little bit earlier because we want to be all decorated and prepared by the time everyone else is ready to celebrate Christmas. So me and Nora decided to make some decorations ourselves. I'm always looking for good decorations that actually are big and take up a lot of space. And so I know I'm in our PJs, but I promise we're actually doing work. So we found this interesting craft where you take paper bags and you glue them together, you cut them out, and they create these snowflakes. And the tutorial I saw was just with regular size, like brown lunch bags. So I thought I would try it with these giant white bags so that if you've seen our micro bakery, it's in a pole barn with a very tall ceiling. So it really takes a lot to fill up that space and to really make an impact when we buy decorations. So I think this is an affordable way that maybe we can really fill up the bakery, and also we don't have to spend too much on them. So we put on our PJs and we put on some Jamie French, which is a YouTuber that we love to watch, and we just laughed away and created these snowflakes, and it was so much fun, and I think that they turned out beautiful. So like I said, you just buy, and I will link below the bags that we used, and you just hot glue them together, and then you cut them like I'm doing here, and maybe I'll link, if I can find it, the video we used, the tutorial. I think it was like a short clip, and you can cut it in a bunch of different ways. I did 4 at a time, so I would glue 4 together, and then I would do the cutout. I would do 4 more, cut those out the same way, and then I would glue those 4 to make 8 total bags glued together. Then you do a T at the end, and then once it unravels, it turns into this beautiful giant snowflake. So I couldn't believe how beautiful these turned out. I'm also hosting a Christmas market themed wedding shower for my cousin Lizzie, and so I think these will double as great decorations for that too. So I'm really excited about these. Now, one tip I would give you is maybe only use 7 bags instead of 8. By the end, we just felt like those actually worked better with 7 bags. So we were really excited with how they turned out. This day was my day to work at the bakery, so I headed over to my mom's house. My parents recently built a smaller house in the back of our property behind the bakery. My sister now lives in my childhood home that my parents lived in up until 2 years ago, and then they built this house. So it's really nice that my sister lives right next to the bakery and my parents live right behind it, so I'm able to just head to work, drop my kids off at my mom's, and then head straight in to the bakery. My kids always love going over to their mammal's house. One, because they love their mammal and they love their papaw. Emmy Lou is definitely a papaw's girl. But also because, like I said, my sister lives on the property as well, so they usually get a visit from their cousins who they love to play with. And it's really mornings like these where I just think, wow, I'm so lucky I get to drive here, and this is where I get to spend my day just baking away with some of my closest friends, which is my sister and my cousin Lizzie. So it was such a beautiful morning, and I was just so excited to get into the bakery. So as you can see, we have started decorating for Christmas, but we actually had a local farmer from Muddy Pike Farms come, and she's actually going to decorate the outside for us, which is really nice. We're just very busy this time of year, so having the outside be taken care of was such a luxury. And she got these wreaths for us, and she is going to bring more later this day. As I mentioned, I work with my older sister Paige and also my cousin Lizzie. So I had to start my workday making a latte. Once again, if you watch this series, you know that I drink a lot of espresso, and my go-to is an almond milk flat white, which is really boring, but when you drink it every day, I just can't have my favorite drink, which is a spearmint white chocolate latte. That's my favorite. But I just can't drink those every day. So my typical drink is the almond milk flat white. And almond milk is difficult to steam, but I love the taste of it. And this was a particularly good flat white today. And then I have to get to work. So this day is packed full of baking different stuff. It's always fun at the end of this day. I feel like I have gotten so much accomplished. Sometimes when you're rolling cinnamon rolls, by the end of the day, you feel like all you've done is roll cinnamon rolls. Whereas today, I do so many different products, it really feels like a big accomplishment. So I'm starting off with our cheesecake. This week, we have 2 different kinds of cheesecake. We have a pumpkin cheesecake because we still want people to have that classic fall Thanksgiving flavor. But we also have started including our Christmas flavors. So the other cheesecake is going to be a vanilla base with cranberry compote and then topped with a white chocolate mousse. So we refer to it as our white chocolate cranberry cheesecake. And it's probably my favorite cheesecake flavor. I know last video, if you watch the series, which I will link the series if you're interested in seeing more of these videos, I discovered that using a Danish whisk is the best way to stir in the butter for your graham cracker crusts. For some of you, this might not ever matter, but for others, you may be the person that brings cheesecake to every event, and this might be a big deal for you. This made it so much easier, and although I still did make a mess somehow, it is way less messy than when I was trying to stir with a wooden spoon. I just kept scooping some out every time I would use the wooden spoon. So I take my graham crackers that have sugar and melted butter, and I am going to put them into a pan. So one of the best products that we've gotten is probably these pan extenders, because they allow us to use the same pan that we use for our cinnamon rolls and for our cookies and for all of the different products. All we have to do is pop this extender on, and we can make things like cheesecake, we can make things like brownies in these, and all we had to do was buy these extenders. It's nice because we have specific racks that hold all of our pans, and they hold these pans that are a very specific size. So we have bought in deep dish pans for brownies before, but they did not fit well on our racks. So when we found these extenders, it was so nice because we just popped them on and they were able to sit on the racks easily like everything else. So that's crucial for cooling and just being able to store them easier. So as you see, I spread out that graham cracker crust, and then once I feel like I've gotten it pretty even, I go back through with a spatula and I just press it down. And then it's going to go in the oven at 300 degrees for about 10 minutes. After they get baked is when we add the filling, so the cheesecake filling, and then also any compote. So as I mentioned, we're doing a white chocolate cranberry cheesecake. So Paige has already made up a cranberry compote for me. A compote is just berries, so you can use fresh or frozen berries, and then you add in sugar, and then we add in a cornstarch slurry, which helps it to thicken. So this is a compote. It's not a super thick compote because we still want to be able to spread it all over the base of our cheesecake, but it's thicker than it would be if we didn't do anything. So when you add sugar to fruit, the fruit releases all of its water or liquid, and you get kind of a soupy mixture. Once you add that cornstarch slurry, it thickens all of that liquid up, and it just gives it a nice consistency. One of my favorite compotes is our blackberry compote. I love having it on hand because it's great on top of pancakes, on waffles, on French toast, and then also on more savory things like baked brie. And then now that our cranberry compote is spread out pretty evenly on our cheesecake, I'm going to go ahead and add the classic cheesecake base on top of it. And yes, this is a very heavy mixer, but not nearly as heavy as the one that Lizzie is using behind me. You can kind of see it in the left corner. That is our 64-quart mixer. She's making brioche right now, and we do have to lift it together and then dump the dough out of it. And then you can see her. She's actually shaping our brioche. If any of you have watched our videos, we make cinnamon rolls, lots of cinnamon rolls. So when we make our brioche dough, we actually separate it by weight. So these are each 107 ounces of brioche, and that's exactly how many ounces we know get us the perfect rollout. So each rollout gives us exactly 24 rolls each time. So getting that down was really helpful to streamline our production. And there's the cheesecake. Next, I'm doing the pumpkin cheesecake. The only thing different about our pumpkin cheesecake base is that instead of all sour cream, we add in pumpkin puree and then some spices, and it just gives it that warm pumpkin-y flavor. Now, very quickly, I am moving on to brownies. So these are actually those deep dish pans that I said we bought and we don't love because they don't fit on the racks. What we do have to do is just waste another sheet pan, so they'll sit on a sheet pan and then they'll be able to be on the racks. This is our gingerbread brioche dough, which I'll show you us making those later. And then Whitney came and she decorated, and it looks so beautiful, and I'm just getting so excited for the holidays and also for the shower I'm hosting next week. We really love having Muddy Pike Farms around because they sell pumpkins and corn in the fall. I don't know if you guys remember those in my fall videos. And then also she's decorating for Christmas for us in the winter. So we really love having the Baileys around. And Thursdays are for cinnamon rolls. This is a particularly exciting roll day because we're rolling out some new flavors. This week we are debuting our gingerbread rolls and then also our winter morning rolls. So our gingerbread rolls have the addition of molasses and some different spices into our simple brioche dough recipe. And then instead of light brown sugar, we're adding dark brown sugar into the cinnamon sugar base. And then they are topped with a cream cheese icing that also has molasses and spices in it. So if you guys want the recipe for the gingerbread rolls, let me know in the comments below. It is not a sourdough recipe, it uses instant yeast. So let me know if you guys are interested in that. Lizzie right now is rolling our classic jumbo cinnamon rolls. For those of you who don't know, we did start a blog that allows us to share our favorite recipes. So our jumbo from scratch cinnamon roll recipe is on there. Our ham and cheddar quiche recipe is on there. Our focaccia recipe. We have a lot of recipes that use sourdough and a lot of recipes that used fresh milled grains. But if you're someone who doesn't mill their own grains, any of those recipes are great, even if you're using store-bought all-purpose flour. But we also do describe, why do we like to mill our own grains at home, and you can find a little more information about freshly milling flour on our blog. So this is that you saw Lizzie shaping those dough balls yesterday, those 107-ounce balls of dough, and then behind her, you can't see them right now, but my dad sheets those balls of dough into rollouts, and from that rollout we should get 24 rolls each time. And then after she's done cutting, we're going to put them on a pan. They'll be saran wrapped, and then they'll be put into the fridge for their final proof. So this just helps them develop even more flavor. The fermentation process helps them to have, like I said, more flavor and then also a better texture. So as I mentioned, this is a brioche dough base, and also the recipe for this is on our blog, which I will try to link below, or I will link it below. If you find this process as relaxing as I do, let me know in the comments below. I don't know if it's just because I own a micro bakery that specializes in cinnamon rolls that I'm so obsessed with watching people roll them. But if you agree that it's meditative, comment below. So this is that gingerbread dough I was talking about. So it's basically a molasses brioche. And so that's the base of these rolls. And so she's going to put butter on them just like we do for our regular cinnamon rolls, just spreading out a thin layer. This helps the cinnamon sugar kind of stick to the dough, and it helps us not to lose much cinnamon sugar when we are transferring the rolls, and it adds extra flavor because apparently our brioche isn't buttery enough. So this is about, I would say, 3 sticks of butter per large rollout, per 107-ounce rollout, and then we're going to be putting that new cinnamon sugar filling on it. And we want to make sure that we're putting enough cinnamon sugar to really cover the whole thing, but you don't want to put too much cinnamon sugar, or else that is what can cause your cinnamon rolls to leak when they're baking. So when they're baking, they get to a high temperature, that cinnamon sugar becomes liquidy, and if there is too much of it, it can actually overflow from the roll and leak out of your pan or to the bottom of your pan, and it will actually burn faster than your dough is able to bake. So it can really just cause issues in your kitchen. It can cause smoking, and then also it can cause a almost caramelized layer on the bottom of your cinnamon rolls, which sounds good, but sometimes it can be so tough that it's hard to eat your cinnamon rolls, and that is caused by the leaking of your cinnamon sugar. So she added that new filling on there, and then she's going to roll them up. When you roll cinnamon rolls, I do teach a class on this. So if you want to take a class at the Flour Barn, if you're anywhere in the Marysville, Ohio area or Columbus, Ohio area, we do teach a class on cinnamon rolls. But if you're not, here are some tips that I give during that class. You want to make sure that you roll the roll tight enough where things can't leak out during the baking. So when it rises, you don't want there to be like holes where your cinnamon sugar can just leak to the bottom. But you also don't want it to be too tight, or else if you've ever made cinnamon rolls and you've had the middle pop out, that can be a result of rolling your rolls too tight. You're not giving them enough space to expand while they're baking, so the only place they can go is up. So if you've ever had that problem, it might be because you're rolling your rolls too tight. And these turned out so beautiful. I loved that the brioche is a little bit warmer, a little bit darker, and I just felt like these were such beautiful rolls. I also love our pumpkin rolls. I love the oranger brioche. If you want that recipe, it's also on the blog, and I will link it below. We also were testing out the winter morning roll recipe, and that is a brioche that has a couple extra spices as well as orange zest, and then it gets filled with a pastry cream, and then it gets topped with an orange cream cheese buttercream. I still feel like that recipe is not quite where I want it. I would like the dough to be a little bit more full of spice, so I will let you guys know when I feel like we have perfected that one. I had them on Saturday and they were delicious, but I did want the brioche to be a little bit more flavorful because cinnamon sugar really packs a punch on the brioche, but because we used a pastry cream, it allowed the rolls to be fluffier, and it was such a gooey, good texture. But I do think that the dough needs to be a little bit more flavorful because we don't have a super flavorful filling like cinnamon rolls and these gingerbread rolls do. And then we'll check back on these rolls. I will have them later in the video on Saturday morning when we're icing them and then topping them with some ginger snaps. And then here's my dad, Todd, at his place, which is the sheeter. It's his machine. That's where he rolls out the cinnamon roll dough, and it's also where he laminates the brioche and the croissant dough. So people are always shocked to hear that my dad actually does all of the pastry making. He has gotten it down to a science, and he does a great job. We are definitely lucky to have him around. Friday morning was my day off, but I can't stay away from the bakery, so me and my kids headed over to get some breakfast. I still can't get over all of the beautiful decorations, and you may think my dad's coming to say hi to me, but he's not. He's coming to get my daughter, Emilio. Those are the gingerbread rolls. We just wanted to give them a try before Saturday, and they were so good. Also, a fun project is I got a call from a local athleisure wear boutique, and they gave us some Ohio State merchandise. And let me just say, 1, they are so kind. 2, they are local, and their prices are so comparable to those of like Dick's Sporting Goods and Nike. And they were just so cute. She designs all of the stuff herself. And she, like I said, gave us 4 different outfits to wear on Saturday. And I am going to link their business below. They have an online store, so even if you're not from the area, you can use them. And it's just nice to be able to get our OSU gear and support a local business at the same time. So if you're trying to get some merch for the big game or for somebody for Christmas, be sure to use Bend Athletics. I will link them below. And we're all the way to Saturday morning, and there is that sweatshirt that they gave me. It's so soft. I am going to take it off to work because I don't want to get it dirty, but I really love it. And my latte this morning was really good. Actually, it wasn't a latte, it was a red eye. I just needed the caffeine. I know it's not good for my stomach, but I couldn't resist it. I just needed the caffeine. So there's Lizzie making our pecan rolls. We make our pecan rolls by making a pecan pie filling on a burner, and then we pour that into pans, and then we put our cinnamon rolls on top of the filling. They bake, and then we flip them out of the pans, and they are very good. And then right after that, Lizzie gets to icing. Lizzie is on cinnamon roll duty again. She rolled all the cinnamon rolls, and now she's gonna ice all of the cinnamon rolls. So she is icing them, and then I am going to help her box them. Ellen is on sourdough duty this morning. This sourdough turned out extra good this week. I don't know what it was about it, but it was extra beautiful. It's beautiful every week, but this week there was something special in the air. Ellen really has a great sourdough bread recipe. It's easy to replicate and it's delicious. So if you want that recipe, I will link it below. The blog post just has a lot of helpful tips if you're a beginner and a lot of good insights if you are someone who has struggled with sourdough before. And here's another therapeutic thing to watch. Again, might just be me. Let me know in the comments. Watching people score sourdough, I just think is very aesthetic. Like, I could watch those videos all day, especially when their loaves are not ultra sticky, and you could just tell that it's a really good loaf of sourdough. So this was really fun. I got a little distracted filming her. I just wanted to watch her score the sourdough. but I had to get back to work. So after Lizzie was done icing a pan, I would push it to the side, and then I would get her boxes out. So for 4 packs of cinnamon rolls, because we don't sell individual cinnamon rolls, we only sell 4 packs and 6 packs. So for our 4 packs, we use 8-inch boxes, and then for our 6 packs, which you see me packaging right now, we use 9-inch boxes. So I can link those below. Also, if you want to know more about the equipment we use and the packaging we use, be sure to check out the full tour of our micro bakery video. So I will try to link it right now. You should be able to see it in the top right hand corner. That goes over all of our equipment, and then in that video I also have linked in the description all of the specific equipment that we use. So I put all of those in boxes, and then I hand my pan off to Todd for him to clean. And yeah, so a lot of people think he is just our dishwasher, because on Saturdays they just see him washing dishes, but they definitely don't see all that he does throughout the week, which is, like I said, he makes our croissant dough, our Danish dough. Yeah, he's a jack of all trades, really. So I'm going to box these cinnamon rolls up, and then I will label them. These are just our vanilla jumbo cinnamon rolls. As you might have seen in the Thursday portion, some of our rolls are put directly on the pan, and some of them are put into aluminum tins. So while you watch me box these, you probably see the benefit in those aluminum tins. All you have to do with those is get them out and put a lid on them. You don't have to individually box each of them, take them out, and then clean the pan. There's definitely a lot of benefits, but it would cause our price per oven load to go down. So currently I'm able to fit 9 4-packs on each sheet pan, whereas if I use the aluminum pans, I can only fit 6. So each oven load, I'm able to get 9 more boxes of cinnamon rolls, which is about $200 worth of cinnamon rolls. So you can see that makes each oven load an extra $200. So we have felt like it is worth it. But for our specialty rolls, so we normally only do about 18 boxes of specialty rolls a week. We just don't do as many. So one oven load of those rolls is about 3 pans. So it doesn't really hurt the price per oven load, because we're not going to do more than 1 oven load of those. So that's why we use those aluminum pans for our specialty rolls. And for some rolls, like specifically the blackberry cobbler rolls, they actually baked better in those aluminum tins, because it made sure that none of the filling leaked, and that it kept it just within that pan of rolls. In this clip, you can actually see Lizzie. She is mixing up some molasses into our vanilla buttercream recipe, and that is what is going to go onto our gingerbread rolls. Usually when we're releasing a new roll flavor, it's very similar to our classic flavor. So we always are using a type of brioche that is taking our favorite brioche recipe and slightly altering it. And then we also love this cream cheese buttercream. So we usually try to keep that as the base, and then just add different add-ins to kind of make it a specialty roll. This also allows us to bulk make our icing. So if you guys watch this series, you might know Larry. He makes our cream cheese icing, and he is able to make a huge batch of it on Tuesday, and then it's ready to go on Saturday morning, and we could make it whatever we want. So it can be molasses, and then we're topping it with crushed ginger snap crumbs, and they smell so good, they look so good, and the best part is they taste so good. So these specialty rolls, because we actually did quite a few of them, we did do them on a sheet pan so that we could get a full oven load of them. I think we ended up doing 27 boxes of these, because we did get some pre-orders for them. And so that is why they were on the pans, and then I boxed them up, and they look beautiful. pre-orders have been such a big part of our business. In the beginning, we only did pre-orders, so you'd pre-order what you wanted and then you'd come in and pick it up. But now it's just such a great way to kind of guess how many people we're going to get. So if we have lots of pre-orders, we're able to make extra because we are guessing we're going to get more customers that day. Whereas if we aren't getting as many pre-orders, then maybe we don't make as much, or we just stick with our typical amounts. And this is to help us reduce waste at the end of the day. Now I am moving on to making the icing for the winter morning rolls. This is an awesome orange juicer. I will link it below. There's this one influencer, he's like obsessed with juicing different fruits. I forget who he is, but he has the same juicer as us. And one thing I will say is be careful of the handle. It is so heavy. I don't really know how this happens, but I've gotten hit in the head by this handle several times, and it is not light. So if you buy this juicer, you should know that you got to be careful with the handle. So now you can see Lizzie icing those winter morning rolls with the orange cream cheese buttercream, and I love how fluffy they got. This is because there is no cinnamon sugar within them. It's just a pastry cream, so cinnamon sugar kind of inhibits the rise of the brioche. So without having that cinnamon sugar, they were really free to get fluffy and puffy, and this is what gave them such a special texture. And then right beside Lizzie, you can see me packaging our pecan rolls. Like I mentioned, you can see how much easier it is to just kind of whip out the lids and put them onto the pans instead of having to grab the cinnamon rolls, put them into the box them, and then have to separately clean the pan. So that is the big benefit. For pecan rolls, it's also a lot easier to individually flip the rolls. Before, we were having to flip the whole pan, and it's possible, it works good, but it's definitely a lot easier to do it on a smaller scale. You also get a more consistent distribution of the filling when you do it this way. And so here I am packaging the winter morning rolls, and they look so good, and I love the smell of that fresh orange zest. Next, I'm moving on to putting the filling into the danishes. I had mentioned that my dad makes our Danish dough. Our Danish dough is laminated, so if you've ever had a croissant and you've noticed that it has flaky layers, Danishes that are laminated have the same kind of layering within the pastry. So if you were to cut a croissant open in half with a knife, you would see that there are pockets of what seems like air, and it's very fluffy and flaky, and that's actually caused by cold layers of butter within your dough. Those cold layers of butter, when they hit the high temperature, they turn into steam, which creates those pockets that you get into those flaky pastries. So if you've never had a laminated Danish, they are so good, but unless you have a sheeter, they are very tricky to replicate. So this is one pastry that I did make when I was first learning to bake in my apartment. So some of you might know I sold baked goods in college from my apartment, and this was one that I did do in my apartment. I hand laminated. It took so long. It was so finicky, but it was probably the pastry I was most proud of. So when we were about 2 years into owning the bakery, we decided to invest in a sheeter so that we could actually sell laminated pastries on a larger level. So these go in the oven at 400 degrees, and that causes the butter to steam, like I said, to create those flaky pockets. And then after about 5 minutes, we actually turn the temperature down so that they can bake without getting too brown. Also, you see me with that food processor. That is amazing. I did not know that food processors could slice potatoes. But for our baked potato focaccia, that has been a lifesaver. Also, food processors can shred cheese, which is also amazing for this focaccia. And my family also loves the Swiss cheese dip that we make. And using a food processor to shred the cheese has been just life-changing. I will link this food processor because it is great. Also, this recipe is on the blog. It's called the loaded baked potato focaccia. This is a sour cream cheese mixture that we put dollops on top of the focaccia, and then it gets topped with sea salt or coarse salt, and then it gets topped with the potatoes. So the potatoes are, you can either put the slices of potatoes in a bowl and toss them in olive oil, or you can put the potatoes on and brush them with olive oil, whichever is easier. Ellen doesn't like to dirty another pan, so she put the potatoes on and then she brushed on the olive oil, and then they will go in the oven at 450 degrees, I believe. Like I said, I'll link the recipe below. They'll bake for most of the time on that high temperature, and once it is almost done, so once it is reaching that 200 degrees internal temperature, you know it's about done. So maybe once it reaches 190, you take it out, and that's actually when you add the cheese, because if I added the cheese right now, one, it would prevent the dough from being able to bake very well. It would slow that down, and also it would burn the cheese. By the end of the time, the cheese would be burnt, which we don't want. So that gets topped with cheese, which goes back in and is super melty, and then it gets topped with bacon and green onions. So the morning shift at the bakery is from 4 to 8. So my dad actually comes in at 2 to start baking, but then me and Lizzie and Ellen and Paige, or whoever's working the morning shift, is working from 4 to 8 a.m. And then there's a second shift that comes in. We have, usually it's one of our 2 high school workers. One is my cousin Bailey, and then another one is my old neighbor. Her name is Mary. And they come in at 7 o'clock and they help us get the case ready. They usually bag the sourdough. They get it all set up on the table. They prep the drink station, so the coffee station. They make sure everything is properly set up over there. And then at 8 o'clock, usually 1 or 2 people from the morning shift get to go home. That's a very new development. That's been pretty nice to have some Saturday mornings with my family. And Nora actually stopped by, my little sister. You saw her making snowflakes with me earlier. She works at the hospital, so before she headed off to work, she grabbed some breakfast and some coffee. And then this is Ellen setting up the case. Our case has changed a lot throughout the years. My brother-in-law, Troy, he is the one that made this plexiglass case. He actually made our original case, which was a wood case that also had plexiglass, so it was framed in wood and it curved, and it was really nice too, but it didn't have as much room. And then here is us. We had a little photo shoot for our Ohio State merch. Be sure again to check out that business. I just think it's their stuff is so amazing, so it'd be awesome if you guys could support them, especially if you need Ohio State gear anyway. And if you're from Michigan, no hate. I'm sorry, I've been talking about Ohio State so much, but also sorry, I'm not sorry. So after we are done getting everything prepped baking wise, we have to transform our little kitchen, our bakery set, or our baking setup into our bakery retail setup. So we have to, this is why all of our islands are on wheels. It's so that we can rearrange the style of our bakery to fit whatever we're doing. So sometimes they're in a U shape for our classes. Most of the time they're in those parallel lines for baking so that there's plenty of room for everyone. And then when it's time to open up, we set it so that we have our coffee island when you first walk in, then you pass the cinnamon rolls, and then you work left to right going through the case, and then you check out. So this is how we transform it to turn it into a more retail style space. And we are about to open. As you guys know, I always get nervous before we open, but I wasn't nervous we wouldn't have people because we already had a huge line. Most of the time I'm just nervous we're not gonna have customers or people just have given up on us, but today I wasn't worried about that. I was just hoping that we had enough product for all of our customers because we had such a good turnout today. And so our customers headed in, and I actually had the morning off, so I was able to kind of spend some time talking to our regulars, and then I got some pictures and I got some video footage, which I'm not really able to do when I'm working because we're so busy right when we open. So it was nice to get a little footage when I had the morning off. So I got that footage, and then I was able to go home and just hang out with my family, which I don't get to do very often on Saturday mornings. So it was pretty nice. If you guys enjoyed this content, be sure to like and subscribe to the Flower Barn Homestead. If you're looking for our recipes, check out theflowerbarnhomestead.com. That's our blog, and I release these videos every 2 weeks. So be sure to come back in 2 weeks for the next one. Thank you guys, and have a good day.